अपने लिए भी दुआ करें, दूसरों को भी दुआ करें और तमाम उम्मत मुसलमान को दुआ करें। अब आइए हम अपने ज़िक्र की महफिल को इशार करते हैं। जैसे हमारा नॉर्मल प्रोग्राम होता है, बैदर अली का बयान होता है, उसके बाद ज़िक्र की महफिल सजती है। तो आइए बैदर अली की बारगाह में रिक्वेस्ट करते हैं तो अपने पुराने फाल बयान से हम साल में एक ही दिनों को
अस्सलामु अलैकुम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू।
अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन वस्सलातु वस्सलामु अला अशरफिल अंबियाइ वल मुरसलीन अम्मा बाद फ़अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम इन्नल्लाहा व मलाइकतहु युसल्लूना अलन नबी या अय्युहल्लज़ीना आमनू सल्लु अलैहि व सल्लिमू तस्लीमा अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला सय्यिदिना व मौलाना मुहम्मद व अला आलि सय्यिदिना व मौलाना मुहम्मद व बारिक व सल्लिम صلاة وسلام عليك سيدي يا رسول الله صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم. First and foremost, big mubarak to everybody who may be listening on the radio, because tonight is the night of Eid, and the topic of today is in regards to traveling. And there are many ahadith in regards to traveling, and as we may know, those who know the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would know that during the lifetime of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they used to travel quite a lot. From, we can say from the migration from Makkah to Medina, or when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would visit many different cities as well for the purpose of da'wah, for the purpose of propagation of the deen. This is what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do, and he used to spread the deen this way. So there are many hadith in regards to traveling. In one hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam he gives us some advice. And he says that if we knew the dangers of traveling alone, then nobody would travel alone at night. And in another hadith related to this, the Prophet ﷺ, he says that shaitan concerns himself with one or two travelers. So a group of one or two travelers, shaitan is the one who will be with them. But when there are three travelers, when there are three people, now it is a group, it is a jama'ah. So now these three people, shaitan will leave them alone. So we find with these two hadith, if we look at them both, we find that the Prophet ﷺ, he advises us to, if we are able to travel somewhere, especially if we're traveling somewhere far, maybe not local but out of the city and maybe to other cities, the Prophet ﷺ, he advises us to travel in groups, or to travel with a few other people with us. And generally this is more safer for both ourselves and for the other people that may be traveling with us. And it's also, gives you some company on the way there as well, because traveling alone can sometimes be a bit daunting. Then in another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he also tells us he says that you should deem it necessary to travel at night, because the earth is folded at the night time. Now this means that the Prophet ﷺ, he's advising us, he's telling us that when we set out to travel, then we should at least try to cover some portion of that travel during the night. Because during the night it becomes easier for us to travel, and especially in the UK, where if we travel up north or if we travel south or anywhere else, we find that the roads are more empty during night. And it becomes easier for you to travel, and there's less traffic, and the journey time will be shorter this way as well. And we may think that the first hadith I mentioned, the Prophet ﷺ told us not to travel at night. And now this hadith I just mentioned, the Prophet ﷺ told us to deem it necessary to travel at night. So how do we reconcile between these two hadith? The Prophet ﷺ, it's mentioned, he himself mentions that this means that we should cover some portion during the daytime of our travel and some portion during the night. We should not completely travel at night time, we should not completely travel during the daytime. Rather we should have a mix. We should travel some parts during the night and travel some parts during the day. Now in another hadith, there's a beautiful sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, where wherever the Prophet ﷺ would travel, he would travel somewhere, and then when he'd come back to Medina, he wouldn't go anywhere else except he go straight to Masjid al-Nabawi. And then he'd go to Masjid al-Nabawi and he would pray 2 rakat nafil, and then afterwards he would do whatever he came back to do. As in he'd go back and do his own work. So this was the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, that whenever he would travel, once he came back from traveling, he wouldn't go to his home first, or he wouldn't go to the shops, nor would he go to anyone else. Rather he would go straight to the masjid and he would pray 2 rakat nafil there, and then he would carry on with his work. And then the Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, he was very strong upon this sunnah, that whenever he went to travel, he would also come back and he would straight away perform 2 rakat nafil in the masjid as well. And the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith, he says to Sayyidina Jabir radiallahu anh to go to the masjid and offer 2 rakat namaz. As in Sayyidina Jabir radiallahu anhu, he came to Medina. So the Prophet ﷺ, he ordered him to read 2 rakat nafil and then come and do whatever else you were meant to do. Now there are a few rules as well in regards to traveling. There's just a few sunnah actions that the Prophet ﷺ has advised us to do. And a few of them are that when we travel somewhere, especially if it's for the purpose of business or for the purpose of meeting family members or for the purpose of doing other work, then we should first and foremost take permission from our parents, because indeed you have a right over your parents, and if they deem it that you shouldn't travel, then you must stay at home. But if they give you permission to travel, then you can travel. And the other part of this is that if your parents have enough provisions or enough sort of funds to carry on living as you are gone, while you're out and while you're on your business, then it's fine for you to leave. But if your parents, if you're continuously providing them with food, with their house and everything else, then you must stay with them and continue providing them with this. You cannot leave them and neglect your parents. And finally, if the person who travels for the sake of knowledge, and for the sake of knowledge and to seek knowledge and to go to a Darul Uloom or to go to other cities or go to other countries to earn knowledge or learn knowledge from other scholars, then this person, his traveling is of a high rank. And we've mentioned this before, that if a student of knowledge passes away whilst he's gaining this knowledge, then he'll be classed and he'll be raised amongst the martyrs on the Day of Judgment. Now, this was the last chapter in this book, which was a chapter which had a main topic. The last chapter is in regards to just random, or not random, but miscellaneous sort of rules and regulations that we should follow as a Muslim. This chapter I'll not go through because it's very different. It's got different paragraphs for each different rule. So instead I'll talk a bit about this night of Eid, and tomorrow as well. So this night, the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned in the hadith that there are 5 nights in the year which if you make dua, your dua will not be rejected. So these 5 nights is the 1st of Rajab, the 15th of Sha'ban, or as we know as Shab-e Barat, and then Friday nights, Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. So these 5 nights are nights when our du'as will be accepted. The Prophet ﷺ tells us that Allah will not reject these du'as that are made in these nights. And we know we put a lot of emphasis on Shab-e Barat, but we should also know that the same emphasis is also placed upon these other 4 nights. And especially tonight, we have the privilege of having 2 nights in one. We've got the night of Friday, and we've got the night of Eid al-Adha as well. So these 2 nights combined as well, imagine how fortunate we are to have this kind of night. Because this night only comes once a year as well for Eid al-Adha. Only comes once a year, and now we have it combined with the night of Friday as well. So it's a request for everybody who is listening to make dua for all the Muslims that are being persecuted in this world, especially the Muslims in China, the Muslims in Palestine, and the Muslims in Yemen as well. These Muslims are being persecuted day in and day out, and they have no life because of how the governments there are torturing them and persecuting them. And we should also spend these nights, or this night especially, in salawat, reciting salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ, and we should also spend it in salah. And these nights especially, not just so many nawafil, but also if we have qada salah due upon us, then we should read this qada salah first. We should give priority to the salah which we have missed in our lifetime, and we should make them up immediately. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to act upon as we said today. May He also allow us and give us the tawfiq to make dua for all the Muslims in the world. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينُ وَالْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ.